Today, I'm sitting down with Tara Schulenberg, who has one of the most vivid intuitive sight spectrums of anyone that I've met in real life. We hear her story of how that turned on, what the process was like, the role that Kundalini played, how she learned to actually listen to her internal guidance, and where her spirituality is at today, because it has evolved quite a bit. This is part one of two. So come back next week if you want to hear the rest of it. Let's get into it. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
So glad to have you. So I'm most curious of the moment that your site opened up. What was that like? Was it always open or did it kind of trickle? Was it a big moment? Can you take us to the moment that it happened?
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily a big moment. I think it was very much something that had always been with me. I remember even as a kid, not necessarily having so much sight, but being interested and in something outside of myself or like within me. I wasn't quite sure what it was. But it was sort of slowly over time. Now, I'd always been very interested in astrology and numerology. It just felt like a second language to me. So even as a high schooler, I was paying attention to these things. And a friend of mine, I remember, gave me a numerology book for like my 15th birthday. I was always very interested in patterns. And the zodiac was quite like, again, like a second language. And so there was always some sort of like connection, but it wasn't necessarily until to be honest, I almost had like a full mental breakdown that I started to seek seek an understanding of like what was actually happening to me. Um and it was a moment that I mean, really, I'll take myself back to San Francisco. So this is when it started to open up. I had lived in San Francisco for like 4 years. When I first got there, I had a really horrible breakup
Mm.
where I remember looking at myself in the mirror and being like, "You have to learn to let go of things that were not good for you." And I had known for about 2 years of this like 4 year relationship I was in that this man was like cheating on me and we were trying to work through it, but like it wasn't working. And I was almost like torturing myself staying in it. And I'm like, why can't I let go? It felt like it had a grip on me or something. It felt crazy. I felt crazy. And I remember having to go to like a psychotherapist and she was a psychiatrist and she was she basically told me that I was bipolar and put me on medication. And everyone in my life, I kept it secret because I was like, I don't want to tell anyone. I felt like I was going crazy because it was very much a situation with a relationship where if we had a really good weekend, then I was okay, and if we didn't have a good weekend, then I wasn't okay. Um, Now, this was like something that kept building and building, and to a like where I literally stayed in something that made me crazy. I was on these, like, really heavy medications, and it wasn't really helping me at all. The thing that was helping me was the anxiety medicine, and I finally told a few of my friends, and I told my mom that, I had been going to see a psychiatrist and she had diagnosed me as bipolar, and my everyone around me was like, "Tara, we've known you your whole life. I think you should get a second opinion." And even a friend of mine, her brother was a neurologist, and he was like, "I don't think that that's what's going on with her, and she needs to be careful because she shouldn't be on those medications if she doesn't need them." And so I went and got a second opinion, and that psychologist, it was a psychologist I went to, and she said, "You're going through a really horrible relationship pattern.
Mm.
This is all that is." And so I went off the medication. I stayed on an anxiety medication and started to work through like why I have literally made myself crazy. Like, truly, I had drove myself feeling, like, very unstable. Like, of course, you're not I wasn't crazy, but I felt crazy inside. I felt like I was, um, sort of being tortured in a way, mentally, but I was kind of doing it to myself. I was staying in something I knew I needed to leave, and so that was really the biggest wake-up call for me was that like, why am I participating in patterns like this where I'm causing my own suffering? And so there was that doesn't necessarily have to do with my vision, but it does lead me to where I ended up having an opening, right? Because my drive was really needing to understand myself. Like, why am I doing this? Why is my mind pushing me to like stay in things that I know are not good for me after looking in the mirror and literally going, you have to learn how to let go of things that are not good for you. And so I finally left that person and went into therapy for a few years and really unpacked a lot of things. While I was there, this is like started my own like personal journey of like what's going on internally. I started to get very interested in mindset work. Like, I need to get control of my mind because I'm not in control of it. And I felt like kind of weak of the mind that like I wasn't fully commanding. And so I was seeking out practices in San Francisco and workshops and kind of anything that I could do to help myself understand why is it that I'm doing this? And I mean, I turned to astrology because I'd always done astrology. Like, what's going on in my chart to understand how I could break through these patterns? Like, what's going on in the mind? What's going on in my body? I found Kundalini yoga, and that became like a weekly ritual where every Sunday I would go and use my body as a technology to open my energetic field. And it was so almost addicting right away. Like this feeling of what it felt like to use my body and my breath to open up my field. It was like I all of a sudden would get clarity about things I had been mentally struggling with for years. Like,
Mm.
oh, I need to move. For example, I knew I needed to move to LA. I had been racking my brain about it and kind of nervous and not wanting to do it for like 2 or 3 years. And I start going to Kundalini classes, and I'm like, all of a sudden in 3 months, I can see very clearly I need to move, and I start taking action on it. And within like 6 months of starting Kundalini yoga, I did actually make that move. So there were things that like this technology was a really big part of my awakening. And it was really what helped me see clearly, like see where all of a sudden my mind is not quite grasping what needs to be done. My intuition wasn't like fully connecting, but it wanted to, really wanted to. Now, at the same time, I had gone down to LA. I'd go down to see my friends in LA. And they would see a woman. Her name is Cindy. She's she's I think probably in her 70s now. Cindy is somebody that I've been working with now for like over a decade, and she is a psychic, and a couple of my friends went to go see her in person. And I don't think I'd ever done this before, but I'm doing the Kundalini yoga. I'm open. I'm researching more of my astrology. I'm diving into the chart. I'm like teaching myself astrology. I'm like very much like on this self journey, understanding that I was taking all this medication and now I'm not. I'm in therapy. I'm having kind of a snowball moment. Well, I get to this psychic, Cindy, and she tells me some things I didn't really honestly want to hear about my love life, because really the
Mm.
way in for me was my love life. It was like that was the relationships were like the thorn in my side. I couldn't quite understand why I was doing the things I was doing. Um, so that was kind of the underlying current. Well, Cindy tells me that I'm not gonna probably get married or meet the person I'm gonna be with until it was in my late 30s. I'm in my late 20s at the time, and I'm like, oh, that's horrible. Um, and I was like, whatever, that's not gonna happen, blah, blah, blah. And um but it was a profound reading. The very end, I start to get up and we're all leaving. And Cindy hunches over her chair and something comes over her. And I'm the last person that she's read. So we're all like wrapping up and she's hunching over and she's like holding her backside, like her kidney. And she was like, whoa. She goes, where's the Starbucks near you, Tara? Where is there a Starbucks near you? And I was like, what do you mean? There's a few. Like, I said, she's like, it's the one on the corner. And I said, "Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about." There were 2 right by my house in San Francisco. I lived in Cow Hollow at the time, and so there were 2. There was one on a corner and one that was, um, like, kind of
Strip
within a
mall?
bunch of yeah, it wasn't a strip mall, but it was kinda like it was on the road, but and one was on a corner, and she said, "It's the one on the corner." And, she goes, "I feel like this feeling of a knife stabbing in my back." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "You're freaking me out." Like,
What?
absolutely. Right? And, she goes, "You need to stay away from that Starbucks." And I was like, "Okay." I'm like, it's funny now because it was so long ago that, like, I don't think that I would ever have these types of experiences again, but she was like, "You gotta stay away from this Starbucks." And she said, "There is a man watching you and girls like you." And she goes, "I feel like a knife stabbing in my back."
Oh my
And I
god.
said, "What's crazy is," she didn't know this, but there was a man that was, attacking women on that street at that time in San Francisco. And it was kind of like whisperings and quiet. It wasn't like headline news, right? It was like kind of watch out because we had been hearing very quiet murmurs of that. Well, then Cindy's telling me this, and I'm like, "Oh my god." She goes, Your guides are gonna go with you because I know I've scared you." And that's she's never scared me ever again. But I think that was maybe one of the only ways I was gonna listen.
Yeah.
And what it did for me was I learned to listen.
Mm.
Because that's one of the main things that you need to understand when you're opening your vision is you have to learn how to listen. If you don't listen to yourself, you don't listen to your intuition, you're always going to miss it, you know? It's always going to feel quite dull. So I remember I would be like in the shower and I would ask myself and my like guidance, is it okay for me to go buy that Starbucks today or should I be going around it? And some days I would hear go around it and some days I would hear it's okay to walk through it or drive through it, like, I would take, like, the public transportation on the bus, and I was listening, and I was very serious about it, and it was about 3 months of, like, being very serious, and I think my friends thought I was crazy, and I'm like, "Whatever, I don't care. You don't have to be the one that might get stabbed."
Yeah, better
I know
safe than
I
sorry.
feel like when I say this out loud, it sounds crazy, but what it did is, like, it really opened up my ears to something else. That combined then with doing the Kundalini yoga, it just started to naturally, like, snowball and open. Now I moved to LA, I start doing Kundalini yoga almost every day. I somehow ended up moving 2 miles away from Rama in Venice.
So what is
I start
Kundalini yoga? Can you give
Oh,
us a
yeah, okay,
little
so
intro?
Kundalini yeah, I always just assume everyone knows, but that's not true. Kundalini yoga is an old ancient form of yoga. It's essentially the easiest way I like to talk about it is that it's a technology that you're moving your body, on your own, where there's no substances involved by any means. You're using your breath, you're using your voice. There's a lot of like chanting and you're moving in consecutive like repeated movements for longer periods of time using your breath. What it does is it helps you access your subconscious mind. It helps you access deeper parts of your psyche and helps open up your chakras. So you basically start opening up your entire, body, your instrument, which is what is the receptor for all of the downloads, all of the intuitive hits, right? There's actually not really downloads. It's more of it's an internal thing, right? It's more of you see something kind of emanating from yourself, right? It's just mirrored back to you. It helps it's a technology, essentially, and there's thousands of kriyas, meaning
And
sets
what are
of
kriyas?
movement. Kriyas are
Okay.
sets of movements that, and in the Kundalini tradition, there's so many that you can choose from that work on different parts of the body, like the thyroid or removing fear out of the body or to generate more prosperity, open the heart, open up the third eye, open up the throat chakra, help your aura become stronger. There's a lot of it's quite fascinating as a technology where it's just so self-contained and it's about you. It's a tool for you to really tune up your body and tune up your vessel and your intuition so that you're not reacting to things anymore. You have enough energy moving through you, through the technology, through the movements, through the mantras. You have this kind of enough energy running through you that now you have more time and space that opens up. And so it's a way for you almost to embody more energy, to be able to contain more, to be able to handle more, to be able to handle more energy moving through you. And therefore, you can see all the options when you have one, there's this idea that you have one blink of an eye and you have like 1,000 thoughts happening at the same time. And now you can choose it because there's enough space, right? You're in meditation. It's weird. When you practice Kundalini, it does feel like time is slowing down, right? There's more space in between the seconds and then the moments. You feel like you're slowing down time. Oh, I'm going to pick this thought and I'm not going to react, right? Out of my old patterning. I'm going to pick this thought and then share it and project it out. And now that essentially means that you're reprogramming your subconscious mind. You're reprogramming how you default act. So it's a tool to reprogram the subconscious essentially.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember that was where I first met you was
Mhm.
after a Kundalini class, and I think that was my first one that I ever took. I could not keep up. Oh my gosh, it was so tough. All these like intense movements and this chanting in a language that I didn't know, and everyone's wearing all white and like these beautiful outfits, and I'm like sweating because this is like really hard. And I realized that most of the other people in the room seemed to be having these transcendent experiences. They were having these visions and intuitive downloads, whereas I just felt like I'm just struggling to keep up. I hadn't yet, and I didn't because Kundalini ended up not really being my thing, but I couldn't get in the flow enough to create that space. Was that an instant connection for you with Kundalini, or did it take time for you to connect in that way?
Yeah, it took a little bit of time, but not a ton, I will say. I remember one of the first workshops I ever did, we did spinal flexes. So you're, moving the spine back and forth for 11 minutes. And I have never felt that type of buzzing and opening in my body. It was almost like I was like all the cells in my body were like reverberating. Like it was just, I had never experienced anything like that. So it was quite immediate. And I was really, it was, I don't even know what the word is, but I was fascinated. I was fascinated that I didn't need to do any like drugs. I didn't need to do anything outside of me. I could do it on my own with just my body. So anywhere I went, I could just do it on my own because I was never somebody that was, never felt comfortable taking mushrooms or any kind of like plant medicine. I just had it. I didn't like it. It kind of scared me to do something like that. I have kind of control issues, so I didn't like feeling a little bit outside of my body like that. So when I'm using my own instrument, I can control how much and how deep I really went. And for me, that was really necessary because it helped me calibrate to a deeper experience versus and integrate where I was going versus being blown wide open and then not having to like fully integrate all that. And I think sometimes that can like mess you up in the head a little bit when you go a little too far too fast.
Yeah, or you become it seems like some people become dependent. They think they can only reach that
Yeah.
through a substance, through something outside of them. And so you found this way to activate it within you just by movements, chanting, breath.
Yeah.
It was all within.
It was all within. And I really, that was really empowering to me that I didn't need anything else. And
Yeah.
if I could learn how to just do this on my own, it didn't matter where I was, I could activate something else and activate guidance beyond me, my like, you know, the vision we have here. I could activate something beyond it without needing anything else outside of me. And again, it was empowering. And God, I remember just being kind of giddy about it. Like, this is crazy. Like, it just felt crazy. And I definitely dove deeply into that world because it was really helping me. It was really helping me um, mentally too, because I had come from such a place of like mental anguish of like, what am I doing? And why am I attracting relationships that are not good for me? And why do I deal with this stuff? And there's still things I'm dealing with today, still patterns I'm letting go of. But um it was a huge part of my awakening.
So do you remember when your sight first opened up? It sounds like it almost your intuitive senses started with the listening.
It
So is
started with
that
the listening. Yeah, you're right. I
okay?
didn't fully answer that question. It did start with the listening. And then, I remember moving to LA and I started doing the Kundalini like 5 days a week because I lived so close to a studio. Um, and I remember for about a year, I will not lie, almost every day I would come home after the class and I would cry my eyes out. Um, I was like and I would be on the floor like for no reason crying. And, it felt really good in a way, like cathartic, like I was letting go of something. And it was about a year of that. And as I started to let go more. I remember the house I was in. I was living in Santa Monica. It was like the border of Santa Monica and Venice. And I just remember in that house specifically is where the vision started to open. Um, I remember feeling like, and I was playing around with it too. So it started actually not with my vision first. It actually started with my feeling body. So I would feel energies around me. And now, as somebody who's gone through a lot since, like, uh, you gotta have discernment because, like, I
Yeah.
don't know if this was good or not, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but I would feel energies around me, almost like beings, and Cindy also would tell me, she'd be like, Tara, you gotta be careful because not all beings, not all entities are the same. And I didn't really understand that. This is like 2015. Okay. So, like, I'm like, I don't really, nobody told me that. Right. So she's like, when you open yourself up, you open up to everything. So she's like, you need to be discerning of what it is you're opening up to. I didn't quite understand how to do that yet. So I started playing around with just like my body and I would say, okay, guidance, like if it's a yes, if I should go this way on a walk today or this way, or like if I should not go that way, say yes, I would like feel like pressure on my left side was like a yes, or pressure on my right side was like a no. And I would just listen. I would like feel into my body. Well, what's the answer? And then I would go in that direction. I would do what it said just to kind of test, like, am I hearing things correctly? Now now I'm like, "Oh god, I can poke so many holes in that argument of like, well, you're just kind of manifesting it yourself." But okay, whatever. But I started playing around with this and that is when, I started to literally feel like being sometimes like sitting next to me.
Mm.
I didn't really love this, to be honest. I was being visited at night by beings that would sit on my bed and they would like take uh my like the braid of my hair and like, move it over back and I'm just like
Ah,
I didn't
oh my
like
gosh.
that stuff. I know. I was opening up to everything. And so that's where I'm like, I don't know if this was all great. So just take this
Yeah.
all with like have some discernment, right? Of like what you're doing because again, you open up to everything.
Yeah.
And
How do you develop that discernment?
yeah, I personally just had to go through it. And I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who were on the same journey that I was on that didn't have experiences like that. Which is great, but I did. I had experiences with dark beings, with light beings, beings that would sort of tell me that they were light, but they weren't really the trickster beings. Beings that would sometimes sit on my chest, and it was like, no, that's you just know, like there's a knowing inside of like what's right and what's wrong of like what types of energies are around. So again, just like Cindy taught me, she's like, you got to make sure you are being very careful about what you are allowing in. And she also had told me, do not ever let a being inside of your body. And I remember that.
Mm.
I remember feeling that. And so I'd wake up sometimes and I would be like half awake and I would feel beings like trying to get into my body. And what it did for me was I learned how to get really strong spiritually. So I would command with your mind, right? Because everything starts in the mind. I would command with my mind that I was protected every night. I would put like light all around my house, all around my bed. And I would be like, this is my space. You're not allowed here at night. I don't, only beings of light are allowed here. Anything else has to leave. It is not welcome. This is my sleeping time. And what I also really started to instill in every part of my body was, uh, you're always stronger on this plane of existence. You're always stronger than anything trying to mess with you. So
Mm.
I always felt empowered and to like make sure that anything dark that was coming to me, that I would like fend it off. So I would fend it off with my heart. And for years, it was a nightly practice. Like I would cast a sort of light around my house and I would ask God for protection around my home. And I would say, I would watch my heart like glow, glow, glow with so much light. And I would connect to God and I would say, like, and I would blast out love, like so much love into my house. And I would literally watch in my third eye, I would watch things like get cast out. And it was like they were not allowed, because you hit dark energy with love and they will go away because they don't
Yeah.
want that. There's too much shame there. They don't believe that they're worthy of love. And they're quite irritated by it. So that's the best thing you can do is show up in love. And you'll find in your relationships that those people that are not quite in the light of their energy right now, they will not react well to you being a loving person. That makes them feel ashamed. It makes them feel like something's wrong with you because that's what the dark energy wants you to they want they need something to be wrong with them, right? That's why they're in the
Yeah.
darkness. So that was one of the main ways that I was connecting and throughout to really answer your question, it's like it was a long journey. And I do remember there was one vision I had specifically where my third eye started to open. And it was during all of this time. And I was in Santa Monica, and I remember having a vision of my friend Emily and her dad. Very weird. Walking her dog. And I had seen it. And I don't think I knew her dad was in town. And I had seen this vision and it had kind of like a greenish hue to it. It was very weird. And I remember talking to her. She's like, "Oh, yeah, my dad's in town. We were just walking the dog." And I'm like, "I just saw that." Like, I just saw that vision in my head. And I was like, "Oh, okay. So that's what a vision looks like for me."
Yeah. What does it look like? Are you eyes open, you can physically see it? Is it like just how would you
Yeah.
describe it?
Well, it's sort of changed over the years. It just looks like a movie to me. When it was first opening up, it felt like a murky movie. Like, if you were in like a muddy river, there's not a lot of visibility.
Mhm.
And now it feels more like a wide kind of net that I can cast and I can see where energy's moving. And here's the thing though, there's infinite amount of timelines and the way that I believe that there's a way that you move, right? You have a destiny that things kind of keep you on that track, but there's multiple ways you can go about that destiny. And so to me, it's like I can see when people are where they're kind of their energy is directing or where things are kind of moving. So now it's very clear and white. It has like purples. It's not murky. And it's not like I'm physically seeing it, although I've had a breakthrough vision like that when I first started Elevate the Globe. That's how that came through. It was an actual physical vision with my eyes I could actually see. energies and beings, and it was really wild. But yeah, and I think that everyone sees things differently, and that's why for me, I think that I knew I had to test it. Like, I wanted to know for me, what did it feel like when something was a yes or a no for me? Because it's going to be different for you and for your friends and for anyone. It's some people will have it the same, but everyone's built a little differently. And so that's why I'm like, you got to test it out. You have to figure out with your own body and your own guidance, like what is a yes or a no, or what does the vision look like for you? What is a light being energy? What is it coming from love? What does that look like, feel like? Kind of the knowing that you have, what does that feel like in your body? Versus when it's coming from something else. Like, that's something that it's a very personal journey, and there's no right way or one way about it. And I think that the Kundalini pathway for me was very much about self journey. It's a tool. Like, these are all tools. There's no one way of doing something. These are all tools that you use to, like, come back to yourself and, like, get your
Yeah.
own inner knowing right. Help you come back to understanding that your mind is what drives everything. And so even as I tell my story here now, there's so much that goes into it. But it's like I can even poke holes in it now of like, man, you were creating something as a feedback so you could learn something for yourself. Like, it was all in your mind, and so I see that now, but it doesn't matter because it was the journey that helped me get here. And so I think that these tools are very necessary for us on this pathway until you feel like you don't need them anymore because you feel
Yeah.
so strong in your own mind and your own projection and understanding of yourself. But until you get there, you kind of want tools, and they're there for that reason, I think.
Yeah, and in the beginning, like we talked about earlier, the awakening process can feel so sparkly, so
I
magnificent,
know.
and then something happens, and it starts to almost feel mundane. Can you tell us about when that kind of shift happened to you? Is that spiritual maturity? What does that feel like?
Yeah, I think, now this happened to me, and I've also known many other people that have been kind of caught on this wave of I think there's many waves of awakenings, right? If you missed one wave, you'll catch another, right?
Yeah.
And there were many people that came before me and will come after me that will also go through a similar journey. So this happened to me in 2020. Now, what I think is interesting is I just put out something about Andre Barbault, and he's a French astrologer, and he was tracking the planetary index of the outer planets. Now, in 2020, this is when I kind of lost a little bit. I would say I lost a little bit of my connection. Well, he also tracked that in 2020, the what he called the cyclic index of
I have
outer
to stop you really
planets.
quick. I have to stop you
Yeah.
really quick. Tara has an incredible Substack where she breaks down astrology in a really grounded, relatable way. And this article that she's talking about right now, I'll link it in the show notes because it is a good one. Okay, continue.
Yeah, thank you. So he predicted that, like, in 2020, in 2011, he predicted, looking at this index, that 2020 or 2021 was going to probably be a global pandemic because all of the outer planets were, like, really close together, uh, bearing down. So, like, pressure points. And so I rode that wave and I felt that. I think all of us did, right? So many of us did. But that wave for me was where I remember I'd call some of my friends and be like, I don't have the vision like I did before. I can't connect. I remember talking to my friend Sonia for specifically, and she had already kind of gone through that. And she said, it will come back. And you didn't lose the connection. It's just integrating in a different way where it's not going to probably be as profound. It will be more of a way you live your life. And I guarantee you, because your audience is a bit more advanced on their own journeys, and I think your audience has a lot of depth to them. I think that they're going to probably feel like they probably are on the same wave of like, oh, I definitely went through that, right? It's this feeling of it everything became dull. Like, it was like, I'm
Yeah.
not getting these grand, oh my god, it almost used to feel like not orgasmic, but, like, kind of exciting in that way,
Oh,
where I'm like,
completely.
"Absolutely, this is the way to go," and it was like, it just didn't feel that way. And it felt like the planetaries or that index that of just, like, bearing down, and after that, the index starts to go up, right? So Andre Barbal has now predicted that in July of 2026, we will see now a stabilizing of this energy. It's been going up, 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 super, like, super high, like it's like climbing Everest. Like, it's really been intense for a few years because we're coming back up. Now, we're stabilizing in this, like, basket format. All these outer planets are creating a basket at 4 degrees. So stability, security, sustaining. From
Mm,
here on, it's like it's climbing up, but it's more of a, like, you're climbing the peak now. And so it's again, I think it's gonna be where things are coming back online, but in a different way. And now from 2020, even until last year, I really was having a crisis of spirituality. I was going through kind of an internal crisis of, like, I was questioning everything. Everything I had done up to that point, the way I was living. I had gotten really sick, with mold poisoning and long COVID, and it had activated Epstein-Barr in my body, which I didn't even know I had. And
jeez.
I got really sick, and I felt really tormented. Where I'm like, I'm not clear anymore, and it was felt like an initiation of something else, something where I all of it really helped me grow a lot stronger in my values and my knowing, and let go of some of this fantasy that I think what can happen when you have these, like, spiritual awakenings. You can very easily get into delusion and fantasy and not be super clear about, again, who are you talking to on the other side? Like, what do you know? They're
Yeah.
not all equal. The visions
Yeah.
that you're getting are not all created the same. Just because you see it, well, where is the origin? Do you know, like, what your vision is? If it's more of a coming from an underlying kind of, like, delusion, or not letting go, or, not listening, because and it's interesting, as I just wrote another Substack about this, moon coming up, and I'm sure this will be past by the time this comes out, but it's this idea of that sometimes, like, are you letting opportunity pass you by because it's not what you thought it was gonna look like? Are you not listening to your intuition because you had visions 4 years ago about how your life was gonna look like, and now it doesn't look like that, so it can't be right? Things
Mm,
change, timelines change. Maybe it was always part of the plan to move in a direction you didn't think you were gonna move in. So I think that's the sort of downfall of being so open, is that if you have a hard time flowing and letting go, you can get really confused. And when you're confused, guess what you attract? Darker energy. Because confusion, the light, God, that is all clarity. And darkness is okay. It's not bad. We need both. But if you play in that too long, and you're confused for too long, and you let the story of your mind be, don't have my vision anymore. I'm not as connected. Something's wrong with me. I did something wrong. Then you're welcoming in some energies that all of it has a purpose, but it will help you. It will attract things that will continue to keep you more confused, or make you feel like you did something wrong. And that's like a hole that you can dig yourself into that becomes really challenging to get out of. So, I think the moral of it all is, like, there are there are dips, and it's really more of an integration of, it looks differently, right? It's like when the shiny object syndrome, the honeymoon phase of wears off. Like, now you're in a long-term marriage. It's different. It's a different relationship with your intuition, with your vision. with God, with your soul. Like it's just a different relationship, and you have to, you either fight it or you make it feel like you did something wrong, or you go with it and you grow with it, and you listen and you make the best of it, of what is happening. And you just, you gotta flow. That sort of Abraham Hicks, like, downstream thinking is something, I think, again, if you get too, where you're opening your field too much and you're not letting the process happen on its own naturally, it's like you can get really confused and deluded and like living in a fantasy. And I do see there's a lot of that happening right now. And it's very uncomfortable for me to be around. I can't be around it anymore. And I think it's just part of process. It's part of the process. So,
Yeah.
does that make sense? You
It
know?
it makes
Okay.
it makes total sense, and I the same period as you, I think it was I don't know if it at some point in 2020 or 2021 to 2024-ish, I also felt like I lost the connection, and I thought I
Mhm.
did something wrong, but
Yeah.
literally exactly what you're saying. It's like I went through an integration period and I was severely tested, you know?
Yeah.
Incredibly hard period of my life outside of COVID things. And it just allowed me to anchor into my values, anchor
Yeah.
into an integrity, and really center in on what I am here to be, what I'm here to
Mhm.
embody.
Yep.
And now it's like
And
intuition just feels natural. It's not some
natural.
magical thing. It's just, yeah, it's there all the time. It's not some sparkly thing. It's just, it's there.
And it's interesting, right? Like, do you find that, like, you don't really need any tools anymore, probably.
Yeah, definitely not. But I do believe, and I'm curious to get your perspective on this. I needed meditation in the beginning. The meditation and
Yeah.
certain practices in meditation opened everything up for me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, go
100%.
ahead. So,
Like,
do you still
100%.
do Kundalini?
I do, yeah. I do it, a bit less than before. I mean, I had, like, a daily practice for, like, 12 years, something like that, 10, 12 years. And, I just my guidance told me I needed to lay off for a little bit. And, I would still, even now, what's happening is, for me, everyone, I still use tools, right? But it's like, it's less like a, I remember feeling, let me say this, because the reason I say that is because I remember feeling like if I did not do my yoga and I did not do my Kundalini yoga in the morning, I felt really bad. I felt ashamed. I felt like I did something wrong, and that like I wasn't going to be manifesting correctly.
Mm,
Um, and those were, those were just my own beliefs, right? About the tool. It was like I gave the tool so much power that, like, if I didn't engage with it, then I wasn't going to get what I wanted in life, or I was somehow wrong or bad. And I don't know. I think there's probably lots of people feel that way about certain things, that they've used as tools for their own kind of growth. But that was one that now I'm like, I don't need any tools. I use it now to, a lot of it for me is like cleansing. Like if I've shared a lot, um, I kind of cleanse afterwards. For some reason, it feels like that's a really good thing for me to do. I use a lot of mantra, not mantra, like I would say more affirmations. That's really what I'm working with now, and a lot of gratitude. It's really akin to just prayer in a lot of ways. And being really grateful that I made it to the other side. I mean, I was so tormented there for a while, through coming up in 2021, really 2020, all the way to like 2025. I was pretty tormented, like for a good 5 years, by weird beings, fantasy, like like going against my intuition. Like my intuition was telling me to do stuff, but I wasn't listening because I just couldn't let go of a vision that I had, and it had to be that way or else I was doing something wrong. And I just needed to do more Kundalini and I needed to do this and this and it would all get back on track. It was like, bargaining with myself and like not listening. And now it's like I came to the other side and I've had this realization through really a lot of people in my life now are very spiritual but in a very grounded way. They believe very very wholeheartedly that it is all in your mind. And it is absolutely, it's all your mind. And that's quite, to be honest, I feel like that's a bit advanced where you don't need anything. You don't need anything to know that like you are the one that creates all of it. And so if you can get a hold of your mind and you can control your thoughts, then you really have it all figured out. That's really it. I guess that's really it's so simple, right? It's that idea of like teachers, that the best teachers are the people who can really simplify the most complex things. Well, I've come to, through experience, really understand that spirituality really is just, it's just about your mind and controlling your thoughts and the direction that you're moving. And you can, no matter if the world is falling apart, you can still thrive if you decide to. And that if you have enough strength and power in your own perception, that you can be around people where their life is falling apart because, and maybe it really is, but like you can still hold your own perception. That is like the next level, I think, from where I'm standing. And I'm sure from there's next levels from there and there. Like it just keeps going on. But that's the where I'm at on the wave right now is like, oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
really a mindset thing. And I would teach this all the time. And in my old, business I was running, it was like I knew this, but then it's like strip it all away. It's like it's really just your mind. It's like
Yeah.
that's it. Like
It's so much less sparkly and exciting than the
yeah.
packaging that a spiritual awakening and all of those things come in. This is the basics. This is the core. And I think personally, when I think about, okay, how do we get through this time on the planet? How do we make a shift in
Mhm.
humanity? It's this work. It's not connecting with more guides or aliens or whatever. It is becoming a human that is truly in integrity. And it's not easy to do. It's a
It's
very
not.
simple thing, but it's not easy to do because you're coming up against everything that is your foundation of reality. And it feels very threatening to every aspect of you to really look at it.
Mhm. I agree. And also to let go of how you've done things before. It can be very frightening. I mean, I woke up this morning frightened to move forward in certain areas of my life because I'm just scared. Like I'm scared that like I what if it goes wrong? And it's like, well, don't think like that, The thought pattern is like just think about it differently, that like you will always be okay. And like what is this fear driving in me to look at? Oh, well, there's like 4 or 5 things I need to move on and do that are actually important, and that's what the fear is actually driving. So go focus on that and building those things, and you won't, it's not a big deal. To me, the fear, the love, like all of your emotions that you feel, all of this stuff is just information. And it's just up to your mind of like, how do you get the inputs? Or how do you perceive the inputs and how do you use them? All of it is teaching me something. Every single thing, dark, light, frustrating, happy, all of it. It's up to you how you see it and what you're going to do to use it. So all your fears, it's not about pushing them away. It's like they're there to tell you something. To
Mm.
me, the same thing with dark energy. It's there to show you something, some boundary that you don't have there correctly, some strength that you need to, develop, something that you're not listening to, some delusion that maybe you're running that's not really serving you. It's all information and that's it. It's like it's just info and what are you going to do with it? And so
Yeah.
it's quite empowering when you look at it that way where it's like, oh, it's just a filter. And I'm going to decide to put a growth expansive filter. And so if that's my projection, everything coming my way is gonna help me grow in some way. So, whatever it is, I can handle it.
Yeah.
I could
That's
have a
a
victim filter on too and be like, "Oh my god, this is horrible," and, like, everyone's mean to me, and, like, I could feel like that, and there have been times where I felt like that, but I don't know. It's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would much prefer to have that empowered filter on.
Mhm.
Because feeling like a victim, it doesn't feel good, and yes, having the one that everything is a lesson, you do have to look at yourself. So again, it is confronting to do that, but I mean, wouldn't you rather do that than continue to feel like life is beating you down?
Yeah, I agree. And I like I think that I like the tough love, and I like the kind of toughness, because this world is not sensitive and light and easy. And so that's the phase that I'm in right now, is like, and I've attracted that around me, and it's good for me, and I welcome all of it. It's like, how can you toughen up your skin, and how can you get stronger? I think all of it helps you spiritually.
To anyone who's wanting to open up their third
Uh-huh.
eye or their spiritual sight, or they're craving this spiritual awakening, what would you say to them? I know that you've kind of gone through this evolution of the sparkliness and then realizing it's all the subconscious. Would you still encourage someone to try to activate their sight, or is it more of just
Yeah.
working with, yeah?
Yeah, I think that it's just part of the path. Like, I would never say that, like, you're wrong if you have sparkly, shiny, like, syndrome right now. That's probably exactly where you need to be, you know? And it might last forever for you. It might not. I don't know. I don't think there's one way. And I don't want to be in the business of telling people how things should go, because that's not how things work. And that's a lot of karma, bad karma for me to say that out loud. It's like, it's not right. Everyone has their own journey. And I think the best thing, though, that I did for myself was to learn and play with, what does it feel like, so I could, the yes and the no, what's the pressure, like, what does the vision look like? Okay, I'm going to go follow that. Did that actually play out, or did that not? If it didn't play out, that's probably not what a true vision that is of the truth and of the light looks like. So don't, if it looks like that, it's probably not the right thing. It's that testing of, what is it? You have to play with it. And I think that that's also one of the things too, is like, all of this comes down to like mindset and playing. And like, you got to
Mm,
play, and you have to test and keep it lighthearted. And, I think opening up your third eye is really, really cool, but also do have discernment, because once you open, you're not opening to just the light, you're opening to everything. You could also open with the intention of just opening up to the light. I don't know how that would go. I didn't do it that way.
yeah.
So I do wonder what that would be like, and I would say probably suggest doing that just to see if that works.
Right. Why not?
Like my experience was that I opened up to everything, but I think it was good for me too, because there's no like, oh, I don't believe that there's dark energy. Yes, there is. There's absolute. This is a polarity planet. I've seen it all. But if you believe there's only light, you might only see light. It's really, that's where I start to get like, I don't know, it's all the mind, and it's all of what you decide.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's more nuanced than that. And of course, real things happen. People have full financial losses. They have, full, homelessness. There's a lot of stuff that happens, but it's like also information, and sometimes carrying you to a place that you didn't know you needed to be, that
Yeah.
you wouldn't have gone before if you didn't go through those things. So, but that's a delicate conversation, because that's like, that opens a can of worms of like horrible things happening to people as well. Not somewhere I really want to go within this conversation. But yeah, I think again, to me, this is where the shiny object syndrome, I think, is in some ways maybe necessary, because if not, maybe we won't listen
Yeah.
until we feel that sort of sense of bliss and ecstasy, and then that gets our attention. I don't know.
Yeah. So throughout the journey that you've been on, where are you now? Are you focusing more on your own subconscious work? What is your
Yeah.
spiritual practice looking like?
Yeah, interestingly enough, it's pretty simple. Most of it is right when I wake up and where before your brain's like fully in problem solving mode. I used to get up and do my full Kundalini meditation ritual, but right now what I'm doing is I don't want to be fully thinking yet. I don't want to have had done anything yet. And I just sit in bed and I breathe and I scan. Like, it's weird, it's like I can feel in my head that I'm like kind of in between worlds still, and so I'm very much like pulling gratitude in, feeling it, but it's weird because I'm not really having to do a lot. Like, I'm feeling really grateful right now for where I'm at in life. um and I'm also really just setting up my day. How do I want it to go? A lot of it's prayer. And right now I'm in a very grounded place that I just want to feel that stabilizing energy. And so that's really what I'm calling in, is just more peace and stability. And right now, a lot of my spiritual practices too are cleaning up my physical world. So, some of the mess that I made of my physical world, like moving accounts here and there, paying this bill, or opening this account, or it's like stuff that it's very boring. But that is the shiny object syndrome to me right now. Is like, take care of that boring stuff. I'm not drinking juices and I'm not going to sound baths. I'm not doing any of that. I'm really just working with my mind.
Yeah, and it's very, very practical. And
Mhm.
it seems, especially in a times like these where the world is feels really chaotic, the things that feel unknown, when we can really tend to things, all the open loops that we have in our life, the
Yeah.
things that are taking up that mental energy, the more secure we're going to feel. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it's almost like the most spiritually beneficial thing that you can do for yourself is really take care of those practical
Yeah.
elements.
Yeah, it's like the what you said about freedom. It's like that's what freedom to me actually is. It's not doing whatever I want whenever I want. Sure, that's an aspect of freedom. I used to be somebody who wanted to be like a nomad and just kind of live around the world. And I've quickly realized that didn't really work for me. It actually was really activating to my nervous system. Spent way more time thinking about how unsafe I was feeling versus just like making a commitment and like getting an Airbnb for a long term or signing a lease, or that stuff was like, that's real freedom to me. Not having to worry about things, not having to think about things that are plaguing. Like, for example, I used to really hate my body, like, a lot. And it took me facing my biggest fear, which was gaining a bunch of weight. And I gained a bunch of weight, so uncomfortable in my body. And I had this realization that, like, if I wasn't going to be nice to myself and kind and love myself, I was never going to lose this weight. I gained
Mm,
all this weight because I hated myself. I hated the way I looked. My body was never good enough. And so I remember having to go through this process, and I never loved my body more than when it was big as it ever was. It was like, yeah, I came into some peace with that.
mm,
And that to me is more like the freedom I am looking for, is like, I just don't want to be tortured by thoughts. Like,
yeah,
repeating thoughts are torturous to me if they're not helpful.
right.
But when you have time, location, freedom, you have financial freedom, but you hate yourself, you're not free
Yeah,
at
it's
all.
so true. And again, it
So,
comes down to the mind, like you were
yeah,
saying.
it's the mind.
If someone is, kind of feeling stuck in maybe darkness or feeling caught up in the chaos of the world, would you suggest that they really do the subconscious work? Is that perhaps where you might point them?
What's interesting, it sort of would depend, I think, on where someone's at on their journey, because some people really need to move their bodies to feel like relaxing, right? Some of this is nervous system activation.
Yeah.
You might need to do some yoga and some breath work to get some more energy where you can actually feel some space and you can feel something different. It's like this is a choose your own adventure kind of spirituality always is, right? It's all subconscious work, but it's like how, you know? And there's
Right.
lots of different ways of how to do that. There's the tapping, there's the rapid eye movement, right? There's so many ways. There's the work that you do with hypnotherapy. If you love patterns, you might like astrology. You know, if you have patterns, it's like that you keep repeating. That's why I think because I kept seeing patterns in me, I'm like, oh God, I got to go into the astrology. What's going on? So, at least I could see, yeah, okay, the next pattern showing up. How do I approach this differently? I understand that we don't need any of this stuff, but it's helpful.
It's a bit of experimentation,
Yeah.
exploration. You get to go on a little adventure figuring out
Yeah.
how you connect.
And I think the best thing to do is like you come back full circle is to listen to
Yeah.
yourself. You have to ask yourself questions, the right questions. So you ask yourself things like, what do I need to kind of modality would help me the most to move forward in on my path? Maybe it's like to advance my career or, to make my relationship stronger and healthier. And then it's like either you hear something, you just all of a sudden know something, or you pay attention like for the next week. Well, what comes across your path? Do you see something on Instagram that like activates your gut? You're just like, oh, maybe I should go to that. Maybe I should call my friend. I'm just feeling like I should call her. And then you call her and she's talking about some other modality that she's going to on Thursday. And now she's like, why don't you come? You're like, oh, sure, I should go because that's coming into my field. You don't know how it's going to unfold. And I think that's the fun part of it is like, have fun on the way of awakening and moving into this next chapter of your life. And it's about asking yourself those questions and then listening. So simple.
Yeah, this is what I really love about because Tara is giving me a pathway forward reading, which is her astrology readings. You don't give advice. You say, here are the patterns that I see. You get to
Mhm.
decide. And it's so empowering because I do see it as a tool to interact with my own subconscious. Like, yeah, shit, that is the pattern that's been happening. I'm about to come up to a point where that I could shift that. Am I ready
Mhm.
to? Everything that you said, by the way, right on time. Right
I'm
on
sure.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to hear too. And that's what I don't believe in things outside of you telling you how things have to go, but I do believe that everything outside of you is information that you can use to understand how the world might be moving and how you either move with it or you move differently. And so I'm all about the choice of you decide everything and it's like again I do think that there is a underlying destiny though that we're here to accomplish, like we've set this out for ourselves and it's something that we decided ourselves with God, like what did we want to accomplish and learn in this life. And so when you're off track you'll notice that your life will kind of like almost feel uncomfortable, fall apart a little bit, it feels like you can't get anything right kind of thing. And then you gotta shift, and then you go back on that path, but there's many ways, and you can go so far off path if you want,
Yeah.
but you're always internally probably gonna get pointed back in the way you need to go. So it's like, yeah, all of it's, though, for your benefit, and it's all your choice. But I also there's a part of me that really is like, yes, but also you have certain things that you need to do, but you can do those certain things. You're free to do them in many ways. You're
That's
free to choose how
exactly
to do them, you know?
exactly how I think when I think about predeterminism versus free will. It's like I have
Yeah.
certain lessons or certain experiences I'm supposed to have that can show up physically in a number of different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my belief at the moment because that's
Right.
what I'm experiencing. Yeah.
Yeah, and isn't it wonderful that now we're in a place of such groundedness that we're okay with our beliefs shifting? That's like
Yeah,
a really powerful and freeing place to be. It's like, this is what I think right now. It could change tomorrow. I don't know. And if I do, that's okay. That's a good
it's
thing.
okay. Yeah.
And that's where we're going to leave it for part one. Thank you for joining us. Part two, what comes next, goes in a very different direction. We go into things like Jesus, demons, aliens, where Tara sees the world going in the next 5 years. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. You can find links to connect with her down below, and we'll see you in the next one.